Okay, thanks. Okay, welcome everybody to our May 19th meeting of the Park and Recreation Commission in San Rafael. I would like to invite Becky to do a roll call vote for attendance.
All right, Commissioner Cabrales.
Here.
Our Chair Emerson.
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez. She is absent. Commissioner Lauman.
Here.
Commissioner Machado. Don't think he's signed on yet. Commissioner Reisinger is absent, and Commissioner Sandoval.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and it looks like we may have a member of the public here, or is it only staff? Only staff?
So far, yep, it's just staff. Mhm.
Okay.
Peter Norton is from the Marin Master Gardeners. That's who.
Oh, hi, Marin Master Gardeners. Okay, since we don't have public, I'm going to skip the public comment explaining about it. And so I just want to first, let's everybody take a look at the agenda. Do we have any amendments that we need to any amendments? No? All right, so we're accepting the agenda. And the first item is to approve the minutes from April 21st. Does anyone have a motion to approve? Or any edits? Come on, commissioners. Motioning, anyone motioning?
To approve the minutes.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
You can second even if you weren't there.
Okay. Commissioner Sandoval, second.
All right, and let's do a quick vote.
All right. Get my list here. Okay, Commissioner Cabrales.
Yes.
Chair Emerson.
Yes.
Commissioner Lauman.
Yes.
And Commissioner Sandoval.
Yes.
All right, motion passed.
Okay, so now we have item number 2, which is introductions, awards, recognitions, and presentations. Do we have anything that we need to share during this particular item?
We don't, although I did want to, I know during the last presentations, there was a mention that this might be Commissioner Lauman's last meeting. However, confirm that I'm correct. Commissioner Lauman has been asked to stay on a few more months while the city clerk works through some changes to our bylaws. So I believe we'll have at least 1 or 2 more meetings with you, Stacy. Is that correct?
I can do that.
Has Lindsay not reached out to you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay. I'll follow up with her. That's good information to have.
I may have missed that.
Okay. I'll follow up with her and make sure we connect with you on that.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. I was gonna, acknowledge you for all your hard work, but I get to wait on that one. I do also want to acknowledge that I believe Commissioner Reisinger did resign, right? So that was her last meeting.
I think potentially.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we thank Kat for her service, and everybody, please put the word out that we're looking for commissioners, because it's an exciting time to be on the commission with the new Park and Rec Master Plan and all that's going on as far as, downtown San Rafael and all of the upcoming things that are happening. So that said, skipping public comments since we have no public, let's move on to number 4, the Faulkirk Cultural Center Annual Report. We have Debbie. Are you making the report? Or Darcy?
So I guess I will introduce Debbie Younkin, Senior Recreation Supervisor. Got to get used to the process here.
Awesome. Thank you, Catherine. Good evening, everyone. I'm actually introducing tonight Darcy Shalou, which I'm sure all of you have seen before. She is here to provide you with an update on the Faulkirk Cultural Center and the Marin Master Gardeners this evening. So with that, I will turn it over to Darcy.
All right, hello everybody. Going to share my screen here. All right, everybody can see that okay? Okay, my name is Darcy and I oversee the Faulkirk Cultural Center. I'll be providing the annual report for you all. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on Faulkirk. We'll dive into the usage of facility and then we'll close with Peter Norton, who's on. He is a Marine Master Gardener and he's responsible for the greenhouse that's here on the property. For those of you that are not familiar with Faulkirk, Faulkirk is a historical mansion that sits on 11 acres with over 17 rooms. This mansion is listed on the National Historic Register and plays a unique role within this community. It serves as a desirable wedding venue, meeting space, various life events, art exhibits, art classes, and also the gorgeous gardens that are maintained by the Marine Master Gardeners, which you'll hear about in a little bit, and the greenhouse, the Moraine UC Marine Master Gardener greenhouse, which Peter oversees. Obviously, March 2020 was trying for everybody, as well as Faulkirk. We saw a decline in rentals. Ongoing rentals were paused in March, and we did provide a few outdoor-only ceremonies that pertain to weddings and memorials only. A few instructors that used to meet indoors, obviously weren't able to at that time. So they reached out to me because of our gorgeous lawn space here, and we were able to rent that space for a boot camp class and Cuckoo's Playhouse, which was a toddler music class. All of the students and the instructor, everybody really enjoyed using that space. And in 2021, obviously our rentals started to increase, which was great. We did lose our boot camp and outdoor children's class because they were able to go back into their facility. Ongoing rentals have not returned at this time. And with our rentals, although they started to increase, we actually found out that our veranda we were unable to use. So for about 6 months out of last year, it was undergoing construction. But we pivoted and were able to come up with a plan to install lights over the wedding lawn, which was great to give renters a space to continue their party outside, because we didn't have any lighting that was out on the lawn prior to very early, late last year. We hosted 4 exhibits in 2021, art exhibits. One of them was virtual, the California Watercolor Association. They still were not comfortable meeting, so that was all online. We had Marine Open Studios, so we had 3 different artists come install their work in our 3 different gallery rooms upstairs on the 2nd floor. And then the Summer Juried Show is a show that we actually put on. We put out a call to artists, they submit their work, and then we select and display those pieces. We had a solo show with Cornelia Nevitt, and she is part of the Terralinda Ceramics group. With our juried shows, we paired it with a plein air event, so you can see the picture on the left-hand side. Artists from all over came to just paint different parts of the property. It was very well received and something that will continue to pair with our juried shows. This year in 2022, we will host 6 exhibits. We've already hosted two, and we are currently hosting one up in studios at this time. The Kendall C. King exhibit will be a solo show, and the Art to Amuse and Delight will be, again, something more similar to one of our juried shows. And then California Watercolor Association will be back to close the year with us. So right when pandemic started, we started some art classes here, in particular the watercolor class. It was very popular as we were able to hold this outside, and it was something safe for residents to come and paint and socialize with each other, obviously being socially distanced and outside. They have now moved upstairs inside. The class is a bit smaller now, but they continue to enjoy it. A lot of the students travel over the summer months, so we're trying to figure out how we can support a hybrid virtual and in-person class during those times that they're traveling. We will have a new class beginning this June. It's a pastel plein air class, and that is looking promising. So hoping that continues well. And then Faulkirk, since we have some extra space here, will support 8 weeks of camp that one of our other program coordinators have put out to the community. And now I'm going to turn it over to Peter to give you a little bit of history and information on the Marin Master Gardeners.
Apologies, I was muted there. Thank you, Darcy. Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to talk about the relationship that the Marin Master Gardeners have with the Faulkirk Cultural Center. We actually do have a formal memorandum of understanding between the City of San Rafael and the UC Cooperative Extension, who is our parent organization. We've been involved at Faulkirk since 2008. When we first came in, the grounds were basically weed infested, dried out grasslands. And over the years, we have developed a number of demonstration gardens, which are designed to allow people to basically walk around and learn good gardening practices. So basically what we have are a lot of signs that get messages across. And this is really a symbiotic relationship between Faulkirk and the Master Gardeners, because public outreach is a very important part of what we do to educate the public about good practices. And these gardens attract people and get the message across. We have a core group of volunteers who come into the gardens every week, about 10 to 12 people on Mondays mostly. And it adds up over the course of the year. It's about 2,000 volunteer hours that are put into maintaining the gardens. So it's almost a full-time equivalent employee that is being donated to the Faulkirk Cultural Center. The one thing that we do get in return is exclusive use of the greenhouse at Faulkirk. This is a structure that was put up in 1927. It has fallen into disrepair and been rebuilt several times. We took it over in 2012, and I put a lot of time, effort, and money into maintaining the greenhouse. But it's a very important part of what we do, because basically our plant sales are what provide the funding for us to perform our community outreach activities. We work with the public for free. It costs money, and we basically, through 3 grows that occur from October through June, we do a pollinator plant grow, a tomato grow, and then a succulent grow. And 2 of those, the pollinator and the succulents, we actually do our sale right at the Faulkirk parking lot behind the garage, the greenhouse. In terms of what we're doing, we're maintaining 8 distinct gardens. They're all themed about the idea of Mediterranean climate gardens, plants that do well in our conditions, which is basically drought in the summer and hopefully some rain in the winter. This year we put in a brand new garden, which is directly across from the mansion, that emphasizes native plants that are endemic to the Bay Area. Once again, trying to get people to focus on what occurs naturally in the area. Like the rest of Faulkirk, we've been constrained by the COVID pandemic, the restrictions. We've really, for the last 2 years, have primarily been doing things through webinars and so on. But this year we are starting to come back into in-person type of activities where we invite the public to come and join us in the gardens. And we also do a series of free lectures for the public. So, we're very much looking forward to opening up, getting back out with people, and basically spreading the word water wise, fire smart, native plants. These are messages that we're really pushing on the public. And that's kind of our story.
Thank you, Peter. Peter's my go-to whenever I have questions out there. So that's it. Thank you all for taking the time to listen. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentations. Is there any questions for either on the Faulkirk side for Darcy or for on the Master Gardener side for Peter? I have one question, but if some people want to take some time to think about it. So you mentioned that you had ongoing rentals that had stopped. So I wasn't aware that there was that many ongoing rentals at Faulkirk. Could you tell me a little bit more about what those were like, and are you going to try to get them back?
Darcy, do you want me to jump in here? I know that was a little before your time.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
So I think we had 2 or 3 ongoing renters. 3. We had 3. One was Toastmasters. One was a group called ITPI. They were Integrative Transformative Practice International or something along those lines. And I'm not remembering the third. But we actually, when we did the master fee update, because we had this established fee at Faulkirk that was an hourly fee for nonprofit ongoing rentals that didn't even cover staff time to work at the facility. So when we updated the fees, we kind of did away with that heavily subsidized rate. And we met with all of these groups and we talked it through with them and, kind of worked with them and offered other facilities for them. This was during the pandemic. We had a little bit of follow-up with them at other facilities, although I don't believe any of them actually ended up just choosing to use an alternative facility. So yeah, I think just given the model at Faulkirk, having these kind of 1 hour rental that really blocks off the facility where we can't have these longer event rentals that generate revenue that the facility needs. It didn't really make sense, and it also didn't really align with our other facilities. So someone was paying the same amount per hour to get all of Faulkirk that they were paying to get one classroom at San Rafael Community Center. So it just, even looking internally, there wasn't alignment in what we were charging.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Commissioner Cabrales?
Yeah, I was just at Faulkirk recently for an event, and it reminded me that at some point I remember hearing that the ballroom had been closed. No one could dance in weddings and is that the wood floor? There was like a problem with the wood floor. Is that still happening, or is that open now for full use?
I haven't heard of that one. It is open for full use. There is before my time, that newer carpet that's been laid in that room that renters are not allowed to move. So maybe the floor was getting scratched up with heels, and that's why that might be placed there.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commissioners? I can say that, just since we're on the subject, I do think that it might be useful to bring back like the tour of the facilities for the commissioners, just so that we are like able to see the garden, I mean the master gardeners in the greenhouse, and just to eyeball it, because that's not something that you can just walk, maybe you can walk in and just visit, but just to plant a seed for a future visiting of the facilities for some of our newer commissioners, especially.
We'd be delighted to host you.
That sounds nice. I was so impressed when I went. I was just amazing. And Faulkirk is, it's really a nice facility.
Yeah, I would recommend Monday mornings between 10 and 12, because that's when as a group, we're there working.
I like that. All right. Any other questions or comments from the commission? All right. Well, thank you, Darcy and Peter, for all the work you do. And we really appreciate you coming in to present. And I want to ask these commissioners to vote to accept your report.
I'll move to accept the report.
Second.
Thank you. So can we have a vote?
Right. Commissioner Cabrales,
Yes.
Chair Emerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lauman,
Yes.
Commissioner Machado,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sandoval.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passed.
Great. So moving on to our next agenda item.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute to say I'm sorry I have to jump off tonight, but I'm going to the Davidson Middle School band concert.
Have fun.
Nice to see you all.
Good to see you, Stacy, and thank you so much for agreeing to stay. Not that you were put on the spot or anything.
Right.
It's all good.
Well, looks
Okay.
like Mark's here, so we do still have, we've got quorum still.
Oh, all good. Yeah. Hi, Mark. Okay, so I feel like, our next step is just any reports from the commissioners, and I must admit, I haven't been tracking the master plan meeting, so I don't know if there's anything to update on that. I think there isn't, right?
The next steering committee meeting is on Wednesday.
Okay, all right, so we'll hear about that soon. Any other commissioner reports, comments, anything anyone wants to share? Okay. Now we have our favorite part of the meeting, which is the staff comments. So what do you have for us,
All right.
Catherine?
Well, I've got a few for you. Just because we haven't had a steering committee meeting doesn't mean we haven't had a lot of activity on the Park and Recreation Master Plan. We did hold a series of community meetings. I'm trying to remember what's happened since the last time this group met, but I believe so. We held a meeting at the Terra Linda Community Center, and we held a virtual meeting, both of which were pretty sparsely attended. And then we held kind of more of like an event at the Borough Community Center in partnership with the Canal Alliance and Voces del Canal. And we were very, very happy that we had done that in partnership with them. The Voces del Canal, we had an okay turnout. And then the Voces del Canal folks went out into the park and just grabbed everybody that was out playing soccer, that was playing on the playground. We had food, so I think that helped entice people to come over. And I think we ended up with probably about 50 to 60 people that came through, provided feedback, completed a questionnaire. So that was, that was very successful. And then that with the San Rafael Community Center one had about 30 folks. So, I think we're kind of figuring out these community meetings in the time of COVID and what works. And I think we had some mixed results, but overall we got some good feedback. We did extend the deadline on the survey or the questionnaire to the end of May. That was primarily because our activity guide ended up being delayed in printing due to a national paper shortage. So our kind of last minute, our printer told us they weren't going to be able to get us in for like 2 weeks, and we scrambled and found someone that got us in more quickly, but still on a slightly delayed schedule. And since we had it, that was kind of our last big push to promote the questionnaire. We decided to extend the deadline a little bit, but it looks like we will have over 1,000. We've got about 960 online surveys, and we've got a whole bunch of paper surveys. So I think we've already reached the 1,000 survey or questionnaire mark, which was kind of our unofficial goal. But the more we get, the better. Susan and I also met with the Federation of Neighborhoods to get their feedback. We had a series of focus group meetings. We met with representatives from arts and culture, sports and leisure activities, adults and special populations. And then we're having another neighborhood association focus group on this coming Monday. It's been a lot of really interesting feedback. Each group was very different and had very different kind of feedback to share. Even within the groups, the different stakeholders sometimes had completely opposite perspectives on what the role they wanted the city to play. So, it'll be interesting to see how that all comes out. Our consultant will be here at the next Park and Recreation Committee or Commission meeting. So in June, you will be receiving a presentation. It'll be a special presentation from the consultants. They'll provide you with the initial facilities assessment that they've done. So kind of the tour of the parks, the tour of the facilities, kind of the high level report of what they're seeing. And then kind of the preliminary community engagement feedback as well. So that should be really interesting. And I know last meeting we had discussed potentially having that in a hybrid format. And I'm wondering if that's something you would like staff to pursue looking into. So what that would mean is that the commissioners would need to be in person. I don't know if that would potentially limit some people's ability. I know we're getting into summer and it's going to be, kids are out of school. And so I did want to get a sense of whether that's something you all would be interested in doing in June and staff could look into it, or if we feel that at the moment, especially with kind of the surge in cases, continuing virtually might be the best option.
I think I'll just let everybody weigh in. I would be happy to have resume in person or hybrid. Sort of like, you've got to rip the Band-Aid off sometime. And I feel like in Zoom, there's a tendency to be easy to disengage and, but, I'm open to whatever anybody thinks. I think we should have consensus on this item, probably.
Yeah,
just
I would
had-
love to.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said, I just had COVID, so I'm in.
I hope you had a good recovery. Or
Yeah, it was fine.
you're immune now, so you don't have to worry about it.
That's what I
several
mean.
months.
It's just, I'm in. So, and I want to see all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to go in person, but I guess I'll defer to you, Catherine, if you do. I'm not really following COVID as closely as I probably should, honestly. So I'll defer to you in terms of what you feel is best.
I mean, our chair is the expert on this, so if she feels it's okay.
I mean, it's a hybrid option, so it's up to your comfort level. You know, we all are supposed to be following our, you know, our guidelines if we were exposed, if we're feeling sick, or if you're concerned about infecting others, then you could test or you could wear a mask if you were concerned about getting infected. But we're in like our second biggest wave right now. Not that deadly, but very transmissible. And some of the rough estimates from San Francisco, who they test everyone who has a procedure at SF General. It's like 1 in 20 people have it, is what they think. So it's out there, that's for sure. But I think we're not going back to massive policy restrictions that we saw in 2020. That's not the direction we're going. So
That's great news. I mean, yeah, I would love to go in person.
I'm not sure I'm actually going to be here for the June meeting. I'm hoping that I get to Hawaii. So I feel like I can't really vote on it because
Okay, well then we'll follow up with the other commissioners that aren't here today, and then also make sure we've got the technology capability. We would probably need to meet in one of the rooms at City Hall that is already set up to do hybrid. So Becky and I will look into that. So that's everything on the Park and Rec master plan. Any questions on that? I've got a couple other topics to report out on as well.
how many answers do you have to the survey so far?
I think about 1,000.
Great.
We're not totally clear because we've got a pile of paper surveys and I haven't counted how many there are, but I think we've hit 1,000.
And have you set any targets for like how many of those were Spanish speaking?
We have been looking at neighborhood. So we did collect information on neighborhood, and the majority of our paper surveys are Spanish speaking from the Canal neighborhood. So I think we'll have a kind of good mix across the different neighborhoods of San Rafael, and the Canal will be decently represented.
So do you think those survey results will be ready by the time we have our next commission meeting?
Oh yes, definitely by the next commission meeting. Yeah, for sure. We're trying to get them for the steering committee meeting next week, but we have to input them by hand, and so we were just getting started on that, and there's some challenges we have to work through on the data entry, but definitely by next month. All right, so the next topic I wanted to report out on was action taken by City Council earlier this week. I think Becky mentioned it in her email to you, but City Council was considering a public art review program. So the city has been receiving a lot of requests to do murals, predominantly murals, but art projects on public property, and we didn't have any established process for folks to be able to do that. They were having to go through this rather lengthy planning process that included design review board and the planning commission and significant fees, and so a year or so ago, the city started kind of a pilot program. I know Commissioner Machado was part of, there was like a pilot advisory group that was established. So this action was to kind of transition from a pilot process to a more permanent process. So what City Council ended up adopting was the creation of a public art review board, which is particularly relevant to you all because that board is made up of is a 5-member board, one of which is a liaison to the design review board and one of which is a liaison to the Park and Rec Commission. So I believe at the next Park and Rec Commission meeting, we will be asking you all to nominate or to select a liaison to that board. It will be a 2-year appointment. Of course, if you have to bow out at any point, it's you're not stuck in there, but for continuity's sake, and because the board is only going to meet quarterly, we felt that if it was a 1-year appointment, 4 meetings, you're just kind of getting your feet under you and you're terming off. So I can definitely share the bylaws for that group and kind of the supporting documents for the public art review process with you all to see who might be interested in playing that liaison role. The purview of this public art review board is to review proposals for public art. So these are proposals that are coming from the community, for art on public property specifically. So not art on a private property or anything like that. And there's kind of a whole series of criteria that would be used kind of in the selection process. And I will share all of that with you, but I wanted to flag that here and put it on your radar for the next meeting. And it's likely that this board won't start meeting until September. So if it turns out that we're not going to, I know Commissioner Cabrales, you're out, or if there's some folks that are interested in this that aren't going to attend, we can do it either in June or July. So we can see how the attendance is looking, and maybe I'll ask, just try and get a sense of who would be interested in, because it is a little bit more of a commitment than some of our short-term liaison appointments. Any questions on that?
No, I think it seems like a really good plan, and I think it's great to get more public art and have it be, get input. I love seeing the one in the canal, the mural. I drive by it all the time on the way to work, and I love it. So
we know the community has big plans for the canal neighborhood, and
yeah, well, there's a lot of talent. So
yeah,
I think it's a great way to, get community participation and beautify the community. So I like it. But yeah, we'll look forward to deciding on who wants to represent the group at the next meeting. And then does anyone have any questions about the arts process? Or
all right, and I have got more to say.
Of course you do.
So there's another kind of initiative that the city is exploring. I believe Susan has mentioned it before, but as you all are well aware, the city of San Rafael is one of California's oldest cities with infrastructure to match. We have streets, sidewalks, storm drains, parks and playgrounds, libraries, and other public buildings that were constructed from the beginning of the 20th century, through the last however many decades. And there's, significant infrastructure improvements that the city needs. And we've been looking at opportunities for kind of really making a dent in funding some of those infrastructure needs. So one option that the city's been looking at, and I do believe Susan's mentioned this to this group before, but that's placing a measure on the November 2022 ballot to increase the property transfer tax by 1%. So this is not a parcel tax. It's the tax that's paid only when a property is purchased. And in San Rafael, that's negotiable whether it's paid by the buyer or the seller. If it were to be approved, the city is looking at proposing a 9-year term on the ballot measure, and it's estimated that it would provide an additional $8 million annually in locally controlled funding. And it would be looking at supporting services and infrastructure such as repairing potholes in city streets, sidewalks, traffic signals, upgrading storm drains to reduce flooding and storm drain failures, keeping parks, playgrounds, and downtown safe and clean, including addressing the impacts of homelessness, preserving rapid 911 emergency response and evacuation routes, as well as repairing, renovating, and updating the downtown library, neighborhood branch libraries, and other city facilities for safety and accessibility, and to support programming. So at the moment, the city is, as I think Susan mentioned, it's a little bit murky to me what has been shared with which groups, because I'm in a lot of these meetings, but in January, there was a statistically valid survey done that kind of showed mixed support for a measure such as this. Through the survey, we did see certain elements that were more garner more support than others. And so we are kind of honing what that measure might look like and what we might kind of propose to use the funding for. Right now, we're doing kind of an information sharing campaign, if you will, to get the word out about that. You will likely be seeing mailers in the next month or so, sharing basically the information I just shared with you with the broader community. And then in June, the city will do another kind of point in time survey to see if by kind of doing this awareness raising and really honing the messaging, we're able to kind of move the needle on public support for a measure like this. It will be brought to City Council in the middle of July to decide whether or not to move forward with putting this tax measure on the ballot. So we're sharing it with different groups in the city that we think might be interested. You know, asking, you know, we welcome feedback and questions, and also if you think this seems like a good idea to, you know, share and talk about it with your networks. Obviously, once it goes on the ballot, then it moves from kind of an information sharing to an actual campaign, at which point, you know, city staff, we won't be able to talk about it while on the clock, only in our own time. But at this point, it's still, you know, City Council is still considering what they
So
want.
what would be the timeline for this?
It would go on the November 2022 ballot, and it would be for a 9-year term.
That reminds me that Measure A is coming up for a vote, which is the county tax for parks and open space, of which we get what? San Rafael gets a couple $100,000.
$4 to $500,000 a year.
4 or 5, yeah, it's more than that. Yeah. So I'm on my own time right now, so I'm going to say that you should strongly consider voting for this Measure A. It's been great. It's been a great thing for Marin. So I do think the ballot measure is a good idea, Catherine. I think it's, you know, it's one way to go, but you have to market. You have to have the marketing done.
Can I just chime in as a realtor?
Yeah.
Who was president of the Association of Realtors in 2018, that traditionally this transfer tax is paid by the seller. It's not really negotiable. It is, but it really isn't. And the median price of a house is, you know, $1.5 million. So the seller's going to have to come out of pocket $15,000. And that's a lot of dough. I mean, that's just a lot of money. And so I hate to be the the person on the board that's not going to be behind this, because it's just not, I mean, it's I don't know, it's a lot of money. And if we get in the operation of buying and selling a house, you know, you get hit with sewer lateral fees, you get hit with this, all kinds of different things. And anyhow, that's my 2 cents.
That's helpful information, because we actually have been trying to get a better understanding of the mechanics of it. And we reached out to the Realtors Association, and we weren't really able to get the clear answer you just said on who pays for it.
Yeah, I can set you up with Romeo. Romeo's the CEO of the Association of Realtors, a really good guy. And you guys should talk, because there's so much to talk, because there will be a battle. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hate to be like throwing cold water on this thing.
No,
I mean, because it does sound great, right? It does. I mean, it does sound great in the overall, like we're gonna get all this stuff fixed, but it's 9 years. I mean, and it's that's a long time. It's a lot of money. The price of housing is going to go up, and it's just going to cost everybody more to sell their home.
Well, that's a good point. Who pays? Who's going to pay for it? And
Yeah.
who gets, Any other comments on this
So,
ballot measure idea for Catherine? Catherine, I had a couple questions, just general ones. Are you still have some more stuff to go over with us, or?
those were the big topics. Those are the meaty topics.
Okay. So one thing I just wanted to ask was, maybe we talked about it, but the farmer's market not coming back, like what was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, they were working more with the economic development department on that. I can try and get a little bit more better understanding. My understanding was that it financially it wasn't really penciling out for them. And they kind of wanted to take a little bit more time to revisit how they might make it work financially. But I can follow up with our economic development director and bring back a little bit more information to you all. And actually that reminds me on a totally different topic, but something that we followed up with from the last meeting regarding, and it's too bad Commissioner Gutierrez isn't here, but we did follow up with the Santa Fe City School District about their plans for their campuses. And there is not any immediate plan to fence in any campuses and prevent kind of community members from using them for drop-in use. They did say that for like, if it was a formal soccer league or a group coming in to use the facilities for their business, there is a rental process very similar to what the city requires. But for just, a family to come in and kick around a ball or go on the playground, that they don't have any plans they're not moving to prevent that.
So it sounds like that was more of an artifact of COVID, them wanting to keep things sort of locked down, and maybe they'll be more opened up now that
Perhaps.
open.
I mean, at the very least, there's no plans to build infrastructure to prevent it.
Yeah, I used to be up to the individual school. All right, so does other commissioners have any questions for Catherine about sort of what's going on? Any other updates as far as summer activities? I'm assuming the Dining Under the Lights is continuing.
Dining Under the Lights is continuing. There's a West, I should have looked this up a little bit more. I know there's a West End street festival that's planned. We can get the dates for you on that. Our pools, Hamilton Pool is opening up Memorial Day weekend. We're also going to be, as our lifeguards are coming back from college and going on summer from high school, we will be increasing our hours at Terra Linda and Hamilton Pools. So we know everyone's looking forward to that. They'll be back to kind of normal operations, no more reservations. And summer camps we're getting ready for the schools to be out and to start kicking off summer camps and all of our summer programming. The Pickleweed field was actually opened a month earlier than predicted. We were just seeing a lot of folks hop in the field and getting out there anyways. And that we figured, let's just open it up and let the community use it. We're not renting it or programming it at the moment to try and kind of keep the use down a little bit, but the field has been opened for folks to come in and drop in and play.
Hey, Catherine. So the artificial turf, are we anywhere?
So we are going back and forth with the LWCF folks. They're to get that grant, you have to identify a boundary of which you will put under LWCF protection. So basically must remain outdoor recreation in perpetuity. So we were understandably trying to make it as small as possible, and they're trying to make it as big as possible. So we're working through that, but we should know, they said in June, we'll know if that's successful or not.
That would be so awesome. I mean, it's just like such a long time, right? For those folks down there they get to play on the field for like 4 months out of the year because it just gets burned out, you know?
It does. It gets very heavily used.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I think that's all I've got.
Thank you. So I think at this point, we can go ahead and close the meeting. Unless, I think one of the things that I know in the past, just from my experience in government, is that people don't always know how to request to have something on the agenda. So if there's something that you as commissioners that are really interested in, we can communicate with me and communicate with Catherine, and we can agendize it so that we can have a discussion about it. So I think, I urge you guys to think about what you would like to learn about more and what you think would be helpful so that we can review that as opposed to just, our regular reports that we do, which are great. And I love to have them, don't get me wrong, but I also have other things that I think would be helpful for us to know, in particular, like how the capital projects that, what projects are currently funded through normal operations through the city for maintenance or whatever regarding Park and Rec, and then sort of what are the gaps. So that's something that it would be helpful for me to understand, how we relate to the normal planning. So.
Yeah, and hopefully some of that will also kind of come through with the Park and Rec master plan process. Because I think that, some of it we don't even know that we don't know.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Our next meeting is June 16th. Thank you for an efficient meeting, and I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully in person on June 16th. If that works out,
Yep.
Let us know.
Thanks, you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.